Julie McCrossin, and I'm very pleased to be introducing the latest in our Cancer Voices essay series on researchers here in Adelaide in South Australia. And I'm about to introduce you to a young woman doing fantastic work with potential benefit for women with breast cancer. Can you introduce yourself and tell us the work that you do and where we are right now?
My name is Courtney Cross, and I am a researcher in supportive oncology based here at SAHMRI, but working within the supportive oncology research group at the University of Adelaide.
And SAHMRI is the South Australian Health and Medical Research Institute, and you are Dr. Courtney, aren't you? PhD.
Yes, I do tend to forget that.
And so just in a nutshell, what was that PhD about?
My PhD focused on a chronic side effect of chemotherapy treatment, often referred to as chemo brain, which kind of encompasses all of the cognitive difficulties that people experience with and after they've had chemotherapy for their cancer. And specifically, I was looking at how we can target the gut microbiome, so all of the bacteria that live within our gut, to alleviate or treat chemo brain.
And that takes us straight to the research we want to talk about now, because you're involved now in more in-depth research, which hopefully will lead to a strategy for individual women with breast cancer being able to reduce their chemo brain. And it's all to do with fibre and the gut biome. It's all amazing. So tell us your dream hope about what might be possible in the future if your research is successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, a lot of my research now is focused on fibre and how we think what we're testing, whether fibre can help to reduce the impact of chemo brain on people living with cancer. And purely the main benefit of this research is that fibre is so accessible. It's cheap. The product that we're testing is already available at pharmacies currently. And so I hope that positive outcomes of this trial can be really quickly implemented into the lives of people with cancer to really reduce that cognitive burden.
Before I ask you more about fibre and whether you mean eating green vegetables or buying something at the chemist, but I guess understanding chemo brain, I've actually had cancer and I've had chemotherapy. So I have some idea, but can you explain the variety of effects that so-called chemo brain can have on someone with breast cancer receiving chemotherapy? Because its severity is very varied, isn't it?
Yes, it's hugely varied, and it's more so than just people with breast cancer. It affects everyone receiving chemotherapy, and it can impact different cognitive functions such as memory, executive function, which is our ability to process information and make higher order decisions, processing speed, so the speed at which we're able to think about new information coming into our brain, learning, so our ability to learn new information or skills. And lastly, concentration. So our ability to concentrate on one thing, although I think the social media these days affects everybody's concentration, this can be really impacted by chemotherapy.
Could I just ask you, I'm 70, so I'm experiencing some age-related memory impact. But are these this experience of chemo brain, is this experience can affect women of all ages, or is it more likely as we age?
Absolutely. So people have found that our baseline cognitive reserve, which just means your baseline cognition and thinking capability going into chemotherapy, can determine how badly you develop that chemo brain side effect. But women that are young receiving chemotherapy for breast cancer also experience chemo brain, and this can be really troubling, particularly for those women between 30 and 40 years of age, although it's troubling for everyone, but that really impacts your ability to work and make money to fund your life.
Yes, or even fund aspects of your cancer care.
Yeah,
They talk about financial toxicity with cancer, don't they?
absolutely.
Look, let's come back to the gut biome and fibre and its potential benefit. Just tell us a little bit more about what the gut biome is, because it's not familiar to everybody, is it?
No. So the gut microbiome is an ecosystem of microorganisms, which can include viruses and bacteria. And it lives within our body in unison with our body. And it actually helps to provide a lot of functions within our body. So it produces a lot of metabolites that can affect how different aspects of our body function. And one of those parts of our body is the brain.
And I feel like in recent years, relatively recently, there's been a very significant increase in research into the relationship between essentially what we eat and what's in our gut, our microbiome, and our brain. That's a big area of research. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So the gut-brain axis is what we call in research the relationship between the gut as a whole and the brain as a whole. And we've found that the bacteria living within our gut play a huge role in determining what that axis or how that axis is functioning. And so what directly impacts the bacteria being present and living within our gut is what we eat and what we are exposed to.
Okay. So tell us exactly what your research is involving. Has it gone to the situation where you're asking women to eat certain things and then you're studying what happens? Tell us the process of your research and what you mean by fibre.
So during my PhD, I did a preclinical study, which was very lab-based, that found that fibre protected the brain from the inflammation caused by chemotherapy treatments, which is the main mechanism underlying chemo brain. And so I'm now transitioning this from the lab to a real-world situation. And I'm currently running a clinical trial that's asking women with breast cancer based in South Australia to take fibre supplements daily for 3 months. And before and after they take that fibre, I'm testing their cognitive function and how much chemo brain is impacting them on a personal level.
So are the women who you're enrolling in your trial, are they people with a breast cancer diagnosis?
Yes. So they are people with breast cancer who are currently 6 to 24 months following their initial diagnosis. So a lot of people think about chemotherapy treatment being going into the hospital daily, receiving IV chemotherapy. But in actuality, people living with cancer can be taking oral chemotherapy or even targeted therapies and hormonal therapies for years after their diagnosis. And these therapies impact and cause chemo brain for that entire time. And so I'm looking for people who are during that, we call it maintenance therapy setting, where they're taking daily oral chemo, targeted therapy, hormonal therapy, and we're asking them to then take that fibre as well to see whether that reduces the impact of side effects.
When do you expect to have some results that you can publish, share with the outside world?
I'm hoping to have some results within the next year or so. So we're currently recruiting right now and hoping to start our first cohort of women with breast cancer on fibre within the coming months.
Fantastic. So we'll put at the end of this conversation, this interview, how they can contact you. If people women are in South Australia and they fit those criteria, they could ask you about the trial. Just before we finish, supportive care in oncology, just can you explain that area of work that you're part of? What does it mean?
Yeah, so supportive cancer care is definitely an up-and-coming research area in oncology. I personally think it's a hugely important area because we're researching how we can improve the lives of people with and after cancer rather than treating cancer. But A major factor in improving quality of life by reducing treatment side effects is that people will be more likely to adhere to their treatments, which ultimately will increase the depth of response to their treatments. But we're all about improving quality of life. And as the population of people living with or after cancer grows, this will be hugely important work in the future.
We've got very good survival rates for many cancers here in Australia. Some of the best in the world, as I understand it. And that means there's an increasing number of people living after the completion of their treatment. I've heard in Britain there are some what they call late effects clinics. Is that something we'd hope to develop here? Is that in a way part of the vision of supportive cancer care?
Yes, that's definitely a part of the vision. I think the cancer continuum continues throughout life and throughout whatever life that ends up being, and the care that people need to receive continues for that whole time. And so at Flinders Medical Centre, they have started to look into developing a cancer care program. I'm hoping to see this to continue in South Australia so that we're able to have a centre that's providing supportive care to people with cancer from many facets of health.
Fantastic. Look, Courtney, thank you so much for being part of this conversation, and it's just great highlighting some of the research happening here in South Australia. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for chatting.